Hello there, welcome to episode 61 of Paranormal Blip, and it is going to be a stonker of a show because we've got so much news. I don't really know what to do. I am drowning in news. But what I'm going to do first of all is just align my ducks. And I've only got two ducks today, yes. One duck is called Burchett, or Burchett's News. Let's call our duck that, duck number one. And Burchett's news is that we have a date for the for the hearing. Do you know when the date is? Yeah, do you? Do you want to know? It's Wednesday, the 26th of July. So like in like 9 days' time, as I speak to you, very soon. And hopefully this Wednesday or at some point this week, we'll get a sense of the names. But anyway, this is just me introducing you to the duck. Burchett's News is the name of duck number one, and he will quack along in a moment. Now, duck number two is, I'm going to refer to duck number two as they, okay? They are called Schumer's News. And Schumer's News is absolutely extraordinary. So I'm really looking forward to getting that duck to quack all over your earpieces. So anyway, I've got my ducks lined up in order, and I've already named the ducks, so that's fun, isn't it? Here's the blimps. So before we go on, just a quick word on thank you so much for your engagement in the last couple of weeks. Brilliant response to my interview with Matt Laszlo. So thank you ever so much for everybody that's listened to that. And Matt has been appearing on a number of podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff. And he is really, doing great work. So please do check out that episode 60 that was last week, or about 10 days ago. And also check out Matt's askapol.com. Okay, askapol.com, P-O-L, like politician. Yeah. And Matt has essentially kind of worked out a way of, for you guys in the States, asking senators and Congress people questions that they want to ask. 'Cause that's what he does, isn't it? Yeah, that's his job, isn't it? To report on the Senate and the Congress. So that's what he does. So check that out, okay? And check out the interview. And basically, you've got to be on top of, Matt, because so much of this, and certainly in the next couple of weeks leading up to the hearings, so much of the little snippets, first of all, the breaking news snippets are going to come from Matt. And they sometimes take days for other media organizations to get their act together and, kind of report on what Matt has already reported on. So you've really got to follow Matt. I think it's at Matt Laszlo on Twitter, at Matt Laszlo. I think it must be. Yeah, must be. Anyway, also, I don't know why I don't work for the guy, like, but you also, more than that, you need to follow my YouTube thing if you like to. I mean, you don't need to at all, but if you want to, I'm putting up the episodes on YouTube. They're automatically going up, but I've also put up the video interviews that I've done with Jay Christopher King, with James Yandoli, with so engaging the phenomenon, with Kelly Chase from the UFO Rabbit Hole podcast. There's a couple that aren't in there, like Graham, great conversation with Graham, but we didn't record the video for that. Yeah, so just go into that's all audio only, isn't it? Yeah. But there's a couple of others. Daniel Elizondo is up there. Omega Point. Loose Threads is something that we're going to return to, probably early September or some point in the autumn. And I'm talking to Daniel to get him back because I think Loose Threads is more urgent that you read that than ever, really. I mean, it really is all in there in Loose Threads. So, I really want to return to Loose Threads and ask Daniel some specifics about that in relation to Grush and in relation to the news at the moment. Anyway, this is me trying to promote my own. Follow me on Twitter at Paranormal Blip. In Threads, I'd set up Threads. I've never checked Threads, so forget about Threads. I don't even know what I am on Threads. What am I? Good question. Am I an NHI? No, I am human. I am a human, yeah. And also, you get the gist, just Twitter really is the main thing, Instagram as well. But also, what would be really useful and helpful if you're a fan of this podcast is to like, share, subscribe. Okay, as Adam Buxton memorably says, yeah. So you got to like it, share it, subscribe it. Everybody mentions it helps the algorithm, but it does. It does. But if you are, oh, can you hear that? My God, that damn! Oh no, I thought it was a helicopter, but there's a guy outside mowing his lawn. This is mowing his lawn. This is amazing timing. Hopefully, it's not being picked up too much. He's wearing a black. It's weirdly because it's quite a nice summer's day out here. He's wearing a black trench coat and a black hat, and his face is obscured. But he's got quite large eyes, piercing. So now we come to the news that the hearing is going to take place on Wednesday, the 26th of July. And now it looks like it's going to be the House Oversight Committee with James Comer is the actual committee, rather than a subcommittee that's going to be hosting this. Okay, there's slight confusion as I record as to whether it is going to be a subcommittee or whether it's going to be the entire um, committee on oversight and accountability. Because the only subcommittee that I can find that both Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna sit on is the Cybersecurity, Information Technology and Government Innovation subcommittee of that oversight committee. And I suppose that you could say, give it to them then. Give it to them then. But I think that, because Comer's in the on the record speaking to Matt about how some of the people didn't pass muster and they had to shuffle the deck. Some of the the witnesses, the folks giving testimony. But Burchett says that's because people were breathing down folks' necks, um, and there wasn't really much to that idea that there weren't kind of fit and proper folks that were lined up. Having said that, it looks like it will be the full committee sitting. Now, whether everybody, every member turns up or not, they probably won't all turn up. There's quite a lot of people on that committee. But we know that obviously Burchett and Luna are the ones leading it. Now, what can we expect? Well, we can expect Grush. I think that it hasn't been confirmed yet, and we'll get the actual names in a couple of days. But I think that Gadi Schwartz did a report for NBC a couple of days ago, and he said that Grush wouldn't do an interview with him until after he's appeared at a hearing. So, there's like on one side, you've got Grush saying, sorry, I can't speak to you because, I've got this hearing coming up. And we also know that the hearing is coming up. So we can expect, and Burchett has, certainly said that he wants to hear from Grush on the record and all the rest of it. So we can expect Grush. We can also expect pilots. I'm not sure who it is. Obviously, key names in this regard are David Fravor and Ryan Graves. Alex Dietrich the other day sent out a tweet saying, if you want me to appear, then you've got to give me notice because I've got to arrange, things in my life to kind of make that happen. So it may not be that she's appearing at this one. But we don't actually know. I mean, we have no idea really. Basically, we don't have any idea. But we are expecting pilots because Burchett has said, expect pilots. So we are expecting pilots. So it's very, very exciting. And it's also exciting for me because going on holiday. Yeah, I'm going on holiday and I'm going to be in Crete, which I'm very lucky to go to Crete. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that the temperature kind of dies down a little bit because at the moment, one of the hottest days of my life was when it got to 33 degrees. And do you remember when I was playing with my brother in the park? This was, well, our children were playing. This was a couple of years ago. And it was like 33 degrees. That's really hot. And I thought, God, this is a bit much, isn't it? Well, it's 33 degrees every single day. There's a cataclysmic heat wave across much of the world as I record this. In Britain, we're having a very weird weather event for the last week or so. Very odd, like very unseasonable wind and rain and cloud. It's very odd, but it is connected meteorologically connected to the heat wave across southern Europe. So Spain, Italy, Greece, um, lots and lots of records are dropping. Like, places like it's off the scale heat in Spain and Italy. And so hopefully that will have kind of settled down by the time I arrive there in about a week's time or so. So that means that, I don't know, I think it's a 7 hour time difference between Washington, D.C. and Crete. So it'd be really interesting in terms of my, like, whether I can see it live, like where I'm at, because I'm going to be on holiday. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But of course, I will give you my thoughts, probably while I'm in, almost certainly while I'm in Crete. Yeah. Somehow. May not be able to, well, we'll see what I can do. But I'm sure that you'll kind of run with that aesthetic, won't you? Yeah. You'll run with the aesthetic. So, in a nutshell, we have got hearings, and it'd be really interesting to see what impact these hearings have. Because one thing that, and I totally agree with him, Ross Coulthart is always saying, and a lot of people are always saying, is that where is CNN? Where's the New York Times? Where's the Washington Post? Where's the basically where's the news? There are a couple of people reporting on this, but really, and especially with the Schumer thing, it's extraordinary that that's not on the. I mean, maybe not on the front pages, but definitely not being picked up by every single news organization, and not just in the US, by the way, in Britain. If you're listening to me and you're connected to journalism in Britain, like, get your finger out, yeah? Get your finger out, mateless. Get your finger out. Who else? Krishnan. Get your finger out. Who else shall I call? Get your finger out of Ian Dale from LVC. This is a massive story. Anyway, and it's like this kind of constant refrain that everyone has about where's the media on this? Now, interestingly, with the what we expect to happen in 9 days' time is that you know people will be telling the members of the House these extraordinary things. Grush will tell the House what Grush told Ross Coulthart on the News Nation broadcast. Yeah. Now, if that doesn't make them news, then all of our suspicions that there is there's something going, it's not just stigma at that point. And there are, I mean, to be fair, on, Adam Gabat, for instance, who's the US correspondent based in America for the Guardian, the UK publication, The Guardian. They did 4 stories kind of all around Grush and coming out of Grush. The news agents, Mateless. Thank you. You did get your finger out, Mateless. Thank you so much, Mateless, and Soaps, and the other one, Goodall, Lewis Goodall, for the News Agents podcast. They did cover Grush, yeah? And every single uh, newspaper in Britain, except for the Financial Times, covered Grush. All right, so there were maybe some of them were a couple of days late, a couple of days after the event, but they did cover Brush in some Brush. They did cover Grush in some way or another. Okay, so but the print media is one thing. We need to see this on the BBC. We need to see this on the ITV News, etc., etc. And we obviously need to see it on CNN, and we need to see it being um, reported with the kind of like the authority that it demands, and it's expects. Yeah, you can't have somebody like Schumer come out and write what he's written, or his team have written up this act, um, and they're kind of putting it out there, and then it doesn't get picked up. Like, it's extraordinary. You think it can't just be the stigma. Like, there are, it seems to me, and I don't want to get conspiratorial about it, but you do have to think, well, what on earth is going on? Like, it seems to me that some people are saying, we just got to keep this hushed up for a little bit longer. Now, if the Pentagon is, well, who knows? But we do know that there's been, like, decades of disinformation. There's been decades of stigma associated to this. Next Wednesday, the hearings. So that should get, if we've got Favour, if we've got Graves, if we've got Grush, if we've got other people, I think there's going to be about 3 or 4 in total, so including Grush, then it'll be really, really interesting to see the pickup that this gets, especially if you kind of align it, and people hopefully are doing this. And of course, there are, like, almost certainly, there are excellent journalists that just have to keep their head down, and they're in negotiation with their editors or whatever. Like, I totally get that. I totally respect that. I mean, at the same time, though, you do need to say to those guys, come on, like, read the room. Yeah, this is the US government we're talking about. This is the Congress that has passed laws. Okay, this is an update. The thing that I'm going to talk about in a minute, Schumer's language, is an update on, like, where they're at already. They're having hearings about this. We're not reporting on the hearings. We need to report on the hearings. So hopefully that will happen. So here's the big kahuna from Boomer Schumer. Yeah. Right, here we go then. All this is linked in the episode description. This is a press release coming out of the Senate Democrats' office. And it's the 14th of July, 2023. Schumer, rounds introduce new legislation to declassify government records related to unidentified anomalous phenomena and UFOs, modeled after JFK Assassination Records Collection Act as an amendment to NDAA. Washington, D.C. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, and Senator Mike Rounds, Republican, South Dakota, are leading an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which would mandate government records related to unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, carry the presumption of disclosure. The UAP Disclosure Act of 2023 is modeled on the President JFK ARC Act, Assassination Records Act, of 92, and will create a UAP records collection. So then it talks a little bit about who the people are. And then here we go. Look, the legislation introduced as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, that will be on the Senate floor next week, would direct the NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, to create a collection of records to be known as the UAP Records Collection, and direct every government office to identify which records would fall into the collection. The UAP Records Collection would carry the presumption of immediate disclosure, which means that the review board would have to provide a reasoning for the document to stay classified. Okay, so a presumption of immediate disclosure. So remember that. During his time, former Majority Leader Harry Reid, during his time in Congress, he sponsored a project to investigate incidents surrounding UAPs. That's OSAP, as we all know about OSAP. After that project became public, senators, congressmen, committees, and staff began to pursue this issue and uncovered a vast web of individuals and groups with ideas and stories to share. While these stories have varying levels of credibility, the sheer number and variety have led some in Congress to believe the executive branch was concealing important information regarding UAPs over broad periods of time. Okay, so the executive branch is the White House. Congress recognizes that these records, if they exist, were likely concealed under the good faith goal of protecting national security. However, hiding that information from both Congress and the public at large is simply unacceptable. Our goal is to work cooperatively with the executive branch to responsibly disclose these documents and bring the topic into the public sphere in a process that the American people can trust. And by the way, on that, some folks on Twitter are saying, oh, yeah, but the White House hasn't said anything about this, so we don't know if the White House is involved. Like they're involved, right? We'll get to the language in a minute in the act, in the amendment. Yeah? But the White House obviously are involved in shaping. I mean, come on. This is Schumer we're talking about, man. He's the majority lead in the damn Senate, for crying out loud. Of course, it's probably a good idea for him to talk to Biden about this. Probably a good idea to talk to the White House if you're planning to do something whereby you give sole responsibility for assigning whether something is, stays private or can be released to the president. Probably a good idea to talk to the president if that's what your language is going to say. Anyway, this is Schumer, right? Get this, it's amazing. So this is a quote, yeah. For decades, many Americans have been fascinated by objects mysterious and unexplained, and it's long past time they got some answers, said Leader Schumer. Leader Schumer. The American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origins, non-human intelligence, and unexplainable phenomena. We are not only working to declassify what the government has previously learned about these phenomena, but to create a pipeline for future research to be made public. I'm honored to carry on the legacy of my mentor and dear friend Harry Reid and fight for the transparency that the public has long demanded surrounding these unexplained phenomena. Close quote. So let's just go back to what Schumer is saying. Yeah, Chuck Schumer has released a quote, for a press release. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? The American public, quote, the American public has a right to learn about technologies of unknown origin. So that's not Russia, okay? That's not their own tech, that's not black projects we're talking about, right? It's not China. Technologies of unknown origins. Non-human intelligence. Schumer is saying non-human intelligence. Unbelievable. And unexplainable phenomena. It might be unexplainable for us at the moment, but that's also is key. And let's just draw a line under the nonsense that sometimes envelops people with UFO Twitter, with some, that idiot is going, oh, well, like he's moving the goalposts every time. That, chief debunker who shall not be named, Voldemort, he says, oh, well, yeah, a couple of years ago, he was like, whatever, trying to debunk a video by drawing triangles, and as if he knows more than the than the U.S. military. Oh, it's unbelievable. The nerve of that guy! I nearly swore there. The nerve of that guy. It's like who the hell does he think he is? It's absolutely extraordinary that anyone on UFO Twitter is like spending any time following that douche. Can you say douche? I think you can say douche. Um, Ross Coulthart called him something worse than a douche, I tell you. Anyway, right, so what he's doing now, old Voldemort, he's saying, oh, well, obviously, what's happening here is that these people in Congress are being conned. Like, do me a favor, like, come on, man. Just, do another video game or take up golf. Like, just do something else, pal. So let's just draw a line under this, okay? This is Chuck Schumer. This is obviously the output of an ongoing collaboration that has been going on for some time between the White House and the Senate and the House, right? There's no question about that. Like, it's obvious. This guy is one of the Gang of Eight, okay? He has seen some pretty meaty stuff, I can tell you. And so, this is a key thing for them to kind of address, okay? Now, the question that I have is, what is the kind of compelling reason for them to address it now? And there's lots of kind of speculation out there. Like, I mean, it may just be, as we've discussed beforehand, it may just be that, in the next what 50 years, we're going to get better at traveling. We're going back to the moon, apparently. We're going to get better at traveling into space. Like, Virgin and SpaceX and all the other guys that Blue Origin, whatever it's called, the Amazon guy. They're interested in bringing citizens up to space. Okay, so there's a speculation is that, well, if that happens and somebody starts seeing UFOs or whatever, like like loads and loads of speculation out there, like structures on the moon and all the rest of it. If you start seeing that in this day and age, because this isn't the 50s anymore, it's very difficult to actually um, not leak stuff. I mean, it's amazing that not more has been leaked. We have Wilson Davis documents. It's debatable whether Lazar is. I mean, my thoughts on Lazar. If you don't check out the episode, but you could say that Lazar was a leak. Yeah, you definitely have whistleblowers like Grush coming along, and apparently he's not the only one. Okay, so it's only a matter of time when these kind of two worlds of us leaving the planet, if you like. I mean, not us, but multimillionaires and Leonardo DiCaprio leaving the planet for a short amount of time. What happens if Leo sees something? It'll be like, whoa, baby. So and then it might just be that kind of this is where we've got to in terms of our kind of natural progress, if you like. Okay. Having said that, even the astronaut who's the former astronaut who's in Congress at the moment on CNN was saying, well, yeah, like we went from the Wright brothers to walking on the moon in essentially like a lifetime, in under a lifetime, in so little time that took place. The first air flight and landing on the moon was just a couple of decades. So where are we going to be in 50 years' time? Where are we going to be in 100 years' time? And at what point does everything line up politically and, like in every way for you to say, well, actually, now is the time? So it's massive news, this, and it can't be kind of underestimated how we need to draw a line under the nonsense, okay? Because lots and lots of people, like in the next couple of months and in the next couple of years, loads of people are going to be tuning into this. And so we need to kind of get our ducks in order, pal. You can name the duck or not name the duck. You can do whatever the hell you like about the duck, but you've got to start taking this seriously. Now, and then the press release then goes on to talk about, it basically quotes various other people, including Rubio, including Gillibrand. Is it Gillibrand or Gillibrand? Gillibrand, I think. Including Heinrich, including Young, including Rounds. It talks about all of them. Yeah. So they're basing it on the JFK Assassination Records Act, Records Collection Act. Okay, now that was an act that passed in 1992, and what they're doing is they're creating this review board, and I'll talk about who is in the review board in a minute. Okay, but this is what JFK Records Collection Act stipulated as well. Yep. So they created their own review board. Okay. And the job of the review board basically was to work out what document could be declassified and given to the public. All right. Now, At the time of this starting, the Warren Commission, which was this kind of like very flawed commission that looked into the assassination of JFK and reported like within a year, like unbelievably, and many people see it as a flawed thing. And in a way, this act, this Records Collection Act of '92, was a response to Oliver Stone's film JFK, because Oliver Stone's film JFK basically put into the public consciousness this idea that there had been a cover up, like a government cover up of the assassination. Yeah, and so they wanted to like just get on top of it and say, right, well, let's just release what we have. Now, by the time that they got going in '92, 98% of the Warren Commission documents had been already um, released. Yep. But this review board was set up to look at the argument to release the rest of that 2%. Yep. Now, the review board, it took them 2 years to set it up. So it may be that we're looking at similar timelines. Yeah. Because this will get signed in, according to the last couple of years, signed in December 23. So we might be looking at, uh, now, some things happen immediately when it's signed into law. This amendment, I know it's an amendment, and I know that the language might change, but I don't expect the language to change much at all because this is Schumer is behind it. Okay, and it's obviously a language that's been crafted in collaboration with a whole series of people, and you can see like the number of people that are supporting it already. So I don't think it's going to be markedly changed at all in the House before it gets included in the act to be signed off by the president as a law in December 23. And then we'll go on to talk in a minute about what happens then in terms of this idea of immediacy. Yeah. But in terms of the overall, structure of what we can expect afterwards, it's probably worth looking at the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act to see about the timeline of what we could. I mean, maybe it's a little bit faster, a little bit slower, but it gives us a bit of an idea. So the law was passed in '92. This this review board, it took them 2 years to set it up, and then they started meeting in '94, and their final report was '98. Okay, and of course, it's an ongoing process for the UAPs because it's an ongoing event. We only had one JFK, the 9 seconds that broke the back of the American century, as Don DeLillo said. Yeah, the moment that JFK was murdered, that was a one-time event, obviously. By the way, check out Daz Smith on his absolutely extraordinary, and I talk about this in the remote viewing episode and in my interview with Daz as well. And Daz is one of the folks on the YouTube video as well. It's a brilliant interview. So check out Daz on when he remote viewed JFK's afterlife. I mean, just unbelievable. But that's a slight digression. Yeah, so they will get these documents, the kind of whatever happens in terms of disclosure, but in terms of like people writing down and reporting on stuff, the review board, I imagine, will be like a continually sitting board whereby people kind of, I don't know, what they'll meet once every, couple of months, and they'll think, right, here's the stack, let's get going then. Who do we need to keep stum? What do we keep stum and what do we release? Yeah, but it will be an ongoing thing. But in terms of the, it might be that there's a couple of years before the review board is set up, and then we will then have it kind of looking at whatever material is released. Now, there's a 25-year what's the word, kind of envelope or deadline. So let's just see. They talk about it here, don't they? Like, yeah. After the UAP records collection is created, the legislation will create a UAP records review board, an independent agency, which will consider if a UAP record would qualify for postponement of disclosure. Additionally, the federal government shall have eminent domain over any or all recovered technologies of unknown origin, TUO, and biological evidence of non-human intelligence. So just looking at that for a moment, eminent domain means that the government takes possession of those things, those recovered technologies of unknown origin, which they're calling TUO, technologies of unknown origin. In common day parlance, you would call that a craft, okay? A craft. And biological evidence of non human intelligence, NHI. Non human intelligence is the new way of describing what used to be described back in your granddaddy's day as aliens, yeah? Because we don't know if they're interdimensional, we don't know if they live in the sea, we don't know if they live underground, we don't know where they're from. So extraterrestrial or aliens doesn't really do it. NHI does do it. And we're talking about bodies there, bodies of non-human intelligence that are being kept either by, the government, like Patterson, for instance, or by, corporations like, not saying that they've got one, okay, Men in Black, but like Lockheed Martin, okay, maybe like other ones as well, like Northrop Grumman or whoever else, maybe BAE Systems as an example of people that might have craft and bodies. But so they're doing eminent domain on that, which means you've got to hand them over to the US government, okay? Now, within that, I expect that there'll be like a fudge, if you like, in that people will argue. I mean, I don't see the U.S. government going in there with their kind of crack commanders and you know like swarming companies. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just not going to happen. Yeah, but there are certain legal requirements that and legislative requirements that companies have. Okay, and you could easily argue as the government, you're not fulfilling your legal requirements because you are keeping this secret. Okay. Now, we know that you're keeping it secret in coordination and in collaboration with other people who do work for the government, but those people that work for the government are also keeping it secret. So we just need to take a look at it. Okay. But I imagine that what will happen, I don't know because I'm not connected to anyone at all. But it's just my kind of supposition. Is that the word? Probably. That basically they'll do a deal. Yeah, they'll say, look, we need this bit. We don't need that bit. We need you to kind of keep doing. Like we need to just introduce this guy, get this guy read in. I think it would just be a bit more kind of like oversight. But of course, in terms of the public, we're not going to know any of this. Yeah. It may be because this language is so strong, it may be that somewhere at some point, maybe soon, this is what Stephen Bassett says, he expects, well, he thinks it could happen. Maybe he's not expecting it, but he thinks that disclosure could happen this summer. People are calling this disclosure. People are calling Schumer's language disclosure. Yeah. It isn't disclosure. What it is a pathway to disclosure. I mean, it's called the UAP Disclosure Act. So, do you know what I mean? So it's clearly they're wanting to disclose NHI, the existence of NHI. Yeah. Clearly they're wanting to disclose, we have craft. Okay. We're not going to tell you how they work. And we're not going to tell you even if we know how they work. We're keeping it to ourselves. Thank you very much. And I imagine that behind the scenes, we won't know about this, but behind the scenes, I imagine there'll be a kind of fudge whereby the company says, well, okay, like if you want access to this, it's going to cost you some money. And also, I have no idea in terms of the public facing messaging that these companies are going to do because they're screwed. Yeah. Because as Chris Sharp has mentioned, that they have a right a responsibility to their shareholders and to their public filings of their monies. in and out monies, like what comes in, what goes out, um, for it to be legit, you know? So you can't have like a $1 billion craft sitting in a cave somewhere and not tell your folks about it. Do you know what I mean? Because whether you're going to hold shares in company A that does have a secret UFO and is like looking at researching it, which is potentially billions of dollars worth of value to that, to any kind of outcome, or company B that doesn't have a craft, like who would you do you know what I mean? Like you need to know what the hell is going on, you know? So it might be that they're going to be, their wicket is going to get sticky on that point with the old corporation. Will something happen there? Will there be some kind of like a shareholder protest or whatever, whereby they say, you need to actually, the government, like 5 years time, for instance, if Biden or whoever it is comes out and says, we need to tell the people of the world we have contact with NHI. It's been going on for some time, and we also have craft and agreements is extraordinary. But it will be a limited amount of information, but it also can't be nothing either. It needs to be something which enough people will say, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Well, thankfully, I go to church and my God believes that, my God is the God of all, giraffes and birds. So why not NHIs as well? So I'm fine. And then other people will find it difficult, ontological shock, but enough for people to still keep on, buying their potatoes and their PlayStations and still keep going to work. You can't say so much that people just like, well, what the hell is the point then? You know what I mean? So it's very difficult for Biden and the White House and Schumer. And on that, every single word of this legislation has been finely balanced to work out, what are we going to say? How are we going to say this? Okay. And the review body is part of that. So there will be points where it gets sticky in the future. Okay. Because in 5 years' time, if your government has said to you, if you're in the US, and I don't expect Britain to follow, although who knows, actually, I mean, really, who knows? Because if this goes big, and if somebody with authority does say something, then like the next question to Sunak is, come on, then what about the MOD? What about GCHQ? What about BAE Systems? What about this and that? What about all Rendlesham? You know, um, and what's he going to say then? What about Left Gate at Eastgate, or whatever it's called, Last Exit to Brooklyn, whatever it's called, that apparently was on Tony Blair's bookshelf? Yeah, rest is politics. Um, so maybe it will spill out to other countries. We know that Canada has got something going on in Canada, and there's various other countries that are kind of on this, aren't there? Yeah, but in Britain, not a jot. But anyway, getting back to the thing that I keep going off the track for, if in 5 years' time, Biden or whatever, like we live in a post-disclosure world, as Bassett would say, you're then going to say, if you're like a shareholder in Lockheed Martin, all these rumors are flying around like for decades, and you come and say, "Come on, man! Like be straight with us. Be straight with us." Like I'd protest the heck out of that if I was like 5 years later, and we know that NHIs or whatever have had some kind of contact. I mean, this is it is going to be absolutely extraordinary if that happens, and there's various kind of spin-offs, consequences that is quite difficult to predict at the moment. But anyway, let's get back to this this press release. So eminent domain. Okay, so that's what the eminent domain is, which I think will be a bit of a fudge. Um, may be controlled by private persons or entities in the interest of the public good. Yeah. So the federal government shall have eminent domain over any or all recovered technologies of unknown origin and biological evidence of non-human intelligence that may be controlled by private persons or entities in the interest of the public good. Yes. After the review board has made a formal determination concerning public disclosure or postponement, The President will have the sole ability to overturn or concur such determination. At the latest, each UAP record must be publicly disclosed in full, made available in the collection no later than 25 years after the law is enacted, unless the President certifies that continued postponement is necessary because of the direct harm to national security. So that is extraordinary. So let's look now at the actual language, okay? Because there's a couple of things to point out, and all of this is in the episode description, as you can imagine, right? So here we go. Let's look at this. So the review board shall be impartial citizens, none of whom shall have had any previous or current involvement with any legacy program or controlling authority relating to the collection, exploitation, or reverse engineering of technologies of unknown origin, or the examination of biological evidence of living or deceased non-human intelligence. So I don't know whether that rules out somebody like Lou Elizondo, for instance, who was obviously, you know, in charge of ATIP, who was looking at this situation on behalf of the government. It looks like, on reading that, it's ruling out the people that are actually in the program, not somebody like Lou who was looking at the program. Shall be distinguished, this is B, shall be distinguished persons of high national professional reputation in their respected fields who are capable of exercising the independence and objective judgment necessary to the fulfillment of their role in ensuring and facilitating the review, transmission to the public, and public disclosure of records related to the government's understanding of and activities associated with unidentified anomalous phenomena, technologies of unknown origin, and non-human intelligence, and who possess an appreciation of the value of such material to the public, scholars, and government. And C, shall include at least one current or former national security official. So could that be Lou, maybe? Not sure. 2, one current or former foreign service official. Not sure who that could be. 3, one scientist or engineer. That could be a lot of people. 4, one economist. Now that's very interesting. I talked a couple of weeks ago about Christopher Sharp's Liberation Times having that former Bank of England advisor talk about how UAP, talk about UAP and UAP disclosure having an impact on markets. So of course that is a big deal. That economist is a key person for the review board. Yeah. 5, one professional historian, and 6, one sociologist. Okay, then it talks about qualifications for the nominees and security clearances and confirmation hearings and holding hearings and committee voting, Senate voting, vacancy. A vacancy on the review board shall be filled in the same manner as specified for original appointment within 30 days of the occurrence of the vacancy. Okay, brilliant. And then talking about removing somebody, and then talking about judicial review, and then compensating and travel expenses. So it goes on like in great detail. It talks about basically they're setting up the review board, yeah. And then they talk about what they do. Witness immunity, which is interesting. The review board shall be considered to be an agency of the United States for purposes of Section 6001 of Title 18 United States Code. Witnesses, close observers, and whistleblowers providing information directly to the review board shall also be afforded the protections provided to such persons specified under the NDAA 423, which is the whistleblower amendment. Yeah, Gillibrand's whistleblower amendment. So the review board can, and this was the same with the JFK one, can interview people. Okay, and whoever they interview, they're going to be, covered with that whistleblower amendment, which is now a law, as we know. But the personnel, so it will include an executive director. So this is exactly the same as functioning exactly the same as the JFK Review Board. And here on page 31 is something really interesting as well. Consideration of recommendations. A. The President shall make nomination to the Review Board after considering persons recommended by the following. 1. The Majority Leader of the Senate, which is Chuck Schumer. 2. The Minority Leader of the Senate. 3. The Speaker of the House of Representatives. 4. The Minority Leader of the House of Representatives. 5. The Secretary of Defense. 6. The National Academy of Sciences. 7. The UAP Disclosure Foundation. 8. The American Historical Association. 9. Such other persons and organizations as the President considers appropriate. So, you may have noticed something called the UAP Disclosure Foundation. We don't know what that is. This is the first time anybody has mentioned this in writing. So, as a member of the public, you don't know what that is. It sounds very interesting. I'm not sure if it's connected to anybody that we know, like, all of the kind of folks that you might expect, like Lou Alexander or Christopher Mellon, or maybe David Grush himself, who has spoken about how he wants to be a kind of leader in this, pushing this forward. So we don't know who the UAP Disclosure Foundation is. So just kind of, remember that phrase, and it might be something that we return to in the future. But basically, this is big news. There are, various checks and balances in place for them to, release. So the thing about 25 years is that this will pass in 2024. So that means any historical records up to 1999 will be, the presumption is that they will be released immediately. And obviously it'll take a couple of months to, get going, and the review board needs to be formed. And last time the JFK one took a couple of years for them to be formed, but so it won't be like in a couple of months. It'll take a while. But essentially anything before 1999, so that includes, so much stuff. It includes Rendlesham, it includes Phoenix Lights, it obviously includes the things from the 40s, the 50s, what happened before 99. It doesn't include the Tic Tac, but the Tic Tac was in 2004, so we should get that in 5 years' time. Yeah, it's basic maths, isn't it? Yeah. So it'd be really interesting. Now, of course, you could say, well, it's just another process by which, this board can say, no, don't release anything. And the president could say, well, I'm sorry, but this is, we're not releasing that. But obviously that's the thing at the moment. That's what we don't know about, the thing that they're doing at the moment, but they're doing that on some level at the moment. And we don't know who does know. We don't know if Schumer knows. We don't know what Schumer knows. And we don't know whether Schumer knows a lot or a little. But we do know that Schumer is putting his name to this process by which things are released. Now, the JFK review board released a massive amount of things, but it didn't stop there. They're actually still releasing stuff. Trump released some, like, thousands of documents. Biden released thousands of documents while he was president just a couple of years ago. Yeah. Now, the thing about JFK is that the CIA and the FBI put one over the review board executive director and the other guys in there, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, what JFK? Huh? Oh no, we had nothing to do with that." And then, of course, we know that they were just like deeply, like the church committee looked into this, So then they were saying, "Oh, this guy, he didn't have anything to do with it, but he did have something to do with it, and he had loads of, documents connected to him." So they then, kind of like made it happen. So it might be that we don't get all of the kind of goods at once. This isn't disclosure, okay? This isn't, confirmation of government. I mean, what is disclosure? Because I don't really need the government to tell us, yeah? But at the same time, what it will do, hopefully, is create a pipeline for much, much more information to come out. If it isn't about sources and methods, it should come out. If there isn't an imminent risk, like security risk to the United States, then it should come out. So that's really good. And number two is just be aware of, kind of why is this happening? And I don't want to get all, um, I don't think that there's some kind of bad thing is just around the corner and they're kind of sneaking, like, getting their act together before this bad thing arrives in 10 years' time or whatever. I'm not talking about that. But I am saying that there are, like, political considerations. It might be that they've just realized that after 75 years, new generations, people like, Grush are coming into the system. People like Grush are inevitably working at the corporations that have the, good stuff. They're inevitably working at Wright Patterson, and Chris Sharp was on the radio coast to coast with George Knapp the other day, and Chris Sharp was talking about, um, there may be freezers in bodies at Wright Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, which is interesting. I mean, why would you say that, Chris? Very interesting. So it might be that just like too many people in high places have realized, God, the tide is turning. Like, we've got to get on top of this. They're realizing, they're talking to their Five Eyes guys, and Canada is saying, yeah, well, come on, we're doing stuff. Australia are like, we're chomping at the bit, mate. We're chomping at the bit. Britain couldn't give a toss. They want to keep everything hidden forever. But apart from Britain, it's looking good. So they might just be thinking, come on, like, we've got the language, we've like got these whistleblowers are coming out. Like, they're telling us, they told us years ago, they're now telling the public, so we've got to get on top of this because it's happening. It's happening anyway, so we might as well just get on top of it. That's probably, thinking through it, that's probably what's happening. But either way, wake up your granny, it's happening. Thanks ever so much for listening. I'll be back in a couple of days' time. Until then, see you later.